Well, good job on the ride.
Yeah, good job, FitzBarn.
FitzBarn.
Yeah. So, who are you again?
Uh, yeah. Who am I? Chad. Chad. I run the bike shop in Hamilton. Red Barn Bicycles. The finishing destination this year. So, uh, and who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Scott with Fitzgerald's Bicycles, which was the start line this year in Victor, Idaho. And yeah, pretty cool event. Pretty psyched about it. I think everyone was pretty fired up.
Yeah.
Do you remember how it came about?
Conversation during a slog fest, snow bike race in Togwadi.
Togadi.
I always butcher the pronunciation of that lodge.
Most people do.
The snow bike race with 25 miles of snow covered trail, 6 hours of grinding around. And Scott and I are just having casual conversation the whole time. And was it during the ride or after the ride that you kind of?
I think it was after the ride. It was definitely one of those days where we should have been skiing and not biking.
Yep, absolutely.
But the event was on, so we were riding. And you drove a long way to come down for that. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, we drove 7.5 hours, snow-covered roads for more than half of it for sure. And then it was worth it though. It was a good time.
Yeah. So yeah, I think afterwards we were just hanging out, having beers in the lodge, burgers, refueling, and I don't know, I just had a good day riding with you. I've known you through the years at different trade show events, and you always come down from Moose Cross.
Yep.
And just never seen your shop. I was like, hey man, we should race from my shop to your shop. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah. I was like, really? Wow. So it's got to be like 6 hours. That's a long car drive, let alone a bike ride. So.
Yeah, it seemed like you almost wrote it off at first.
Yeah, I think I probably was a little reluctant, or just kind of shortly calculating the mileage in my head, thinking about how far that was. But then started thinking about all this amazing terrain between, Victor, Idaho, the Tetons, and the Bitterroot Mountains. You pass just an incredible array of different scenery, the dryness of the farm fields in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And you grind your way up into the mountains.
Yep. And I had sort of forgotten about the idea ever since that day, and then I don't know if I got a phone call or an email from you.
Yeah, email.
Yeah. You were like, hey man, I've been thinking about this FitzBarn idea.
Yeah.
I think we should do it. I've been looking at the maps, and I think it goes. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was basically like that. It was that 7-hour drive back home when we were, Rick and myself, we were talking about like all these different routes that we could potentially kind of use from your place to ours, and then the seed was planted, and I was hooked. It sounded like a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
So,
and I thought it was pretty cool how you laid it out too. You said, "Hey, I'll map north to DuBois, and you map south up to there."
Yeah.
And so that had a cool collaborative, effort, I think, or a cool collaborative take on it.
Yeah, you fill in the spaces on your end, and we'll fill in the spaces on ours, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, for sure. And what did you think about turnout? Did you expect? What did you expect out of it?
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I figured maybe it could be you and I at the starting line. Maybe a couple others. But once my wife kind of expressed interest in it, it was, yeah, why don't you go experience it the first year? We'll get a good taste of it for next year. And so, I mean, how was it? How was the first running?
It was intense, but it was, I don't know if perfect is the right word, because I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been on a journey like that before. I'd done overnighters, one-nighters, and a long time ago I've done some multi-day stuff, but it was sort of heavy bob trailer kind of touring. I'd never packed, somewhat light and fast. Not that I was all that fast, but to be that minimalist and push through the night like that on big days. I'd never done that before, and the route just seemed ideal for it. You sort of wanted to get to DuBois the first day, or just a little bit beyond, and that was a good resupply. And then you really wanted to get to Jackson the next day because you needed to resupply, and it was the right sort of distance. And then I wasn't sure if on the third day I'd be able to push through to Jackson or to Hamilton in the end, but it sort of was calling you. It was like that right distance. The first day we did 120, the next day about the same, and then 150 the last day, and they were hard days for sure.
Right.
But there was enough of a carrot out there every day where you wanted to get to that next spot, and it just made sense logistically. So, and then the terrain was so varied. When we started out in farmers' fields, potato fields, the rail trail was really cool coming out of Victor.
Sand dunes.
And then through the sand dunes, I mean, it was like we were in the desert. We might as well have been in Utah somewhere.
Yeah.
And that was brutal. We went through there the heat of the day. That was tough for sure. There was one time where I had to lay, there was one tree in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we rode for hours without a single speck of shade. And I came up on this tree and just had to put my head down and just lie there for a while and try to recharge because I was just so heat stroked.
Was there much water on the way into Du Bois?
Yeah, we carried.
Yeah.
There wasn't water. I mean, no, if you weren't carrying, you weren't finding water.
Wow.
For sure.
Yeah.
And but it was an okay distance to carry water. And then once we got into, I don't know if they call it Du Bois or whatnot, but once we got there, it was the perfect place to pull in for a bikepacking journey because there was hardly anything in town, but they had a sweet cafe, and I'll never forget the sign on the front of it, one of those big marquees, and it said, "Blessed are the cracked, for they let the light in." I was like, yes, we are going there for sure.
Yeah.
And so we bellied up to the bar there and had burgers and fries and lemonade.
Oh, perfect.
And that hit the spot. And then the gas station across the street was one of those more than a gas stations.
Yeah.
So it was like a little market. And still couldn't get great food, but dried fruit was a bonus that you don't usually find in a gas station.
Yeah. So you filled the jerseys up with some extra stuff and.
Yep. And then we kept riding as far as we could into the night past Du Bois just to get a little bit further towards Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up camping up, maybe 20 miles outside of Du Bois and pulled over next to a stream, so we had a place to get water the next day.
Perfect.
And then the big slog to Jackson the next day. But then again, another perfect place to pull in for a bikepacking journey.
Yeah, Jackson's a little oasis out in the middle of the big hole. I think it's one of the perfect places to kind of, at the halfway point, charge the batteries.
Yep.
If you want. Otherwise, just dine and dash.
It's a hard place to get out of.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks you in. It's so nice.
Mm-hmm. Hot springs, food, full restaurant.
Yep.
Mercantile across the street. That doesn't open until 9.
Yeah, that was a problem. But they even have a band for us.
Wow. Yeah, so you guys got to experience one of those just little perfect little Montana bars, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty
Band.
cool experience to walk in there. A little intimidating at first, walking in spandex, full like race kit,
Yeah.
And it's all just big 10-gallon hats and belt buckles. And
dead animals all over the walls.
Oh yeah, lots of antlers, lots of heads.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And a good old foot stomping band playing. But they were great, Yeah. Bartender was loading us up with beers, and everyone was happy to see us, and there was like a half a dozen other touring cyclists there.
Yeah.
All camped out and making that a little bit of an oasis for themselves.
Yeah, we'll have to try to keep Jackson, Montana on the map.
Yeah, for sure.
For the second rendition of it.
Yeah. And then right when you're sort of, I don't know, getting a little tired of the high and dry terrain, day 3 is awesome. We're just up in the beautiful mountains, lush, totally different terrain. All of a sudden you're way high alpine, and it was nice to be forested. Actually having shade on the route was great that day.
Riding along creek sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
A lot of water on that route. At least on this probably the last 2/3 of it, huh?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The first part was not as much water, but no big deal because you could provision in Jackson. What do you see for the future of the event?
I'm gonna throw out there that attendance is gonna double for next year. Seems like there's kind of a quiet contingent of people that were sitting right along the outskirts of kind of watching the results of this, the finish of this, kind of wondering how it was. If it was doable,
right?
And I think there's definitely gonna be probably, what do we have, 15 this year, something like that.
I think the official was 14.
14. I'm gonna say 20. I'm gonna say 25, 30 people for next year.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's a fantastic route through two or three amazing states. And yeah, it's adventurous, you know, and who doesn't like to go camping off their bike, touring, and it's, you know, it's remote. You know, you can unplug from reality for a few days
Mm-hmm.
and recharge the batteries and just clear your head. So I think it's going to catch on.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't you think so?
I think
Yeah.
the distance is right. You know, it's just enough remoteness. It's just enough adventure for somebody that can only take a couple days off of work,
Right.
unplug for a little bit, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that's just the spirit of bikepacking in general. People looking to unplug just a little bit and realizing that it doesn't take a month or even a couple weeks to have that adventure. You could do it in a night. You could do it in 3 nights and feel like you're.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just kept saying to each other, God, it feels like we were just out for a week.
Yeah.
But it was just a couple nights, but it was just such, I don't know. It was a very concentrated adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really contagious. I think people are starting to pick up on it and really want more of that. And
Yeah.
you pile on more stuff in your life, you get busier and busier, and it's harder to get those bigger adventures in. But here you go. You get the right bike, and, you know, the buy-in's not that much.
Right.
You know, you get a couple bags, and most everyone has some camping stuff laying around that you can cob together.
Yeah, you
A
can.
mountain bike.
Yeah. I don't. You think there's a perfect bike for this ride?
It's a tough call, you know. Everything is trade-offs. I was riding a Fargo this year, and that seemed pretty perfect to me.
Mm-hmm. You made mention of suspension would be nice.
Yeah, I went rigid, and
Mm-hmm.
there are some bonuses to that for sure. But I think next year there's gonna be a suspension fork on the bike. This is just rough enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have those long days where you're at mile 120, 130. You're going down a washboard gravel road, and front end of the bike is just bouncing all over the place. You're like, all right, enough. It's just mentally kind of
Right.
crushing to have the bike bounce around that much. But I think for shorter days, it's not that big of a deal. If we were doing 70-mile days,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have been really jonesing for the suspension fork that much.
Right. A little bit more time to recover in between.
Yep.
So you guys finished in it's about 2.5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? My wife's out there still.
Yeah, what do you think? Is she going to come in tonight?
She they're on that kind of that, you know, somewhere between 70 and 100 miles a day, and last night they were in Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
and they're packing swim trunks and jet fuel systems to carry all their food, and they're kind of going on a little bit more of the longer mentality. 5 days is what they're thinking.
Uh-huh.
But then she, you know,
She said she might be in tonight.
Right tonight. So which means a 150-mile push from Jackson. That's pretty courageous.
That's solid.
Yeah.
You know, that's really another cool thing about the event and this whole experience is you can sort of do it however you want.
Yeah.
You can make it you know, we had Jay and Todd off the front, and they
Yeah.
blasted it out with just a couple hours of sleep.
Right.
Or you could tour it and have bring your swim trucks and go to the
swim trunks,
hot springs and
30 pounds of gear, food.
right.
Yeah, whatever you want to make of it, for sure.
Yeah, having ring ring ring.
Yeah, it's probably my wife.
I know, right? Dude, you should be open.
Yeah.
Come
right.
on, get that phone.
It's Monday. Aren't you guys around?
Right. We always have people at the shop when we're hanging out and the phone will be ringing. They're like, "Don't you need to get that?"
No.
Like, no.
Nah, we really don't. That's why there's an answering
You can only do
machine
so
attached to
much.
it. Right.
Yeah, you can't answer every phone call. You drive yourself crazy.
Right. So, well, what do you think? Is there anything else?
I don't think so. That pretty much covers it, huh?
Yeah, I think so. It was a fantastic event. It was. We kind of sat in front of the computer, kind of riveted to the computer monitor for a couple days, and watching those little spot trackers. The spot tracker, I think, was a fantastic element.
The spot was cool.
Yeah, it was good to spectate. You know, friends, loved ones, and
Yep.
you know, out there riding, kind of knowing where they're at, kind of getting the consistent checkups on where they were at. It was a good time.
You know, it was actually really fun for me being on course,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about who is probably on track leaders watching us.
Right.
I sort of didn't want to let them down, didn't want to stop too early. I knew people were, you could almost hear them cheering in the background.
Go.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's funny.
And it was a little bit of a lifeline, you know, it didn't feel like a safety net or anything, but it just felt cool that other people were experiencing it along with me, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a way for people to share it. My mom was probably watching, you know, at times, and
Yeah.
obviously my wife and friends and other riders who couldn't make the event.
Right.
They're out there just checking this out.
Oh yeah. I know. I was I was completely jonesing to be out there with you guys. And I was kind of thinking in my mind, all right, where would I be at right now if I was on this group? Would I be hanging out with my wife?
Yeah.
You know, with the swimming trunks, or would I be up there kind of grinding with Fitzy again? You know, so it's kind of fun. Next year, we'll definitely be excited to kind of line up for the second rendition of the FitzBarn, or Barn Fitz, however.
Could
we
be
run
Barn
it.
Fitz.
Could be Barn
Never
Fitz.
know.
Yeah.
It's got a good ring to it too.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for being open to such a cool adventure.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for the hospitality too.
Absolutely.
This has been such a great place to pull into, and Chad had pots of pulled pork ready for pulled pork sandwiches and icy beer. That's the coldest Corona I think I've ever had.
Yeah. Sliced limes.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That was really what kept me going.
You know,
it's like, I know that beer is down there. There's no way I'm putting my bivvy out tonight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it to
Yeah,
the
you
barn.
guys pushed through. I was like, wow, these guys are gonna make it tonight. Midnight.
Yeah.
Midnight.